AIM-listed resource exploration and development company Empire Metals has started the drilling campaign at the Thomas and Cosgrove prospects within its Pitfield project in Western Australia. I'm delighted to be joined by the Managing Director, Sean Bunn. So, Sean, in the release to shareholders, the word major is underlined to describe the drilling campaign. So put this into perspective. Why is it major?
Yeah, hi Sarah. The release today is a really important part of our rapid escalation of the project. I think what we're promoting here, if you like, in terms of in the way of this drill program, is to get bulk samples across two of our major target areas. So the real focus here, and why we call it major, is these 84 drill holes into the the highly prospective high-grade weathered cap is going to deliver almost a ton of metallurgical sample per hole. And the importance of that can't be underestimated, because what it's doing is, we're mapping out a grid that's say 100-meter grid, 100-meter by 100-meter between the holes, gives us, what we've got combined in the two targets, 60 hectares of area that we're sampling. So the scale up of this is twofold. One is lots and lots of big bulk samples that we can test at an industrial scale, at an operational sense. And of course, we're starting to build up the confidence around our mineral resource statement. So we're going to build up a mineral resource estimate, hopefully with the addition of these new holes.
So 80 tons of bulk metallurgical samples from both of these two prospects sounds a lot, because it is a lot. So where are the samples sent? How quickly will results or affirmations be returned?
Yeah, things move pretty quickly. We're subsampling the drilling as we go. So we get a 2-meter sample down the hole, and that assay will go through to the laboratories, probably a couple of weeks turnaround. So that's where we get the geological feedback from this program to allow us to start mapping out where the high grades are and where we need to go look to put our mining prospects, if you like, our mining studies. The bulk sampling is a bit of a logistical exercise, as you can imagine. We take several sub-samples from the hole, store them in large, a bulker bag, almost a half a ton to a ton in each bag. And then we'll store those on our core farm up at site until we're ready to bring it down. But I would say we should be in a position to bring those samples down to the laboratories here in Perth probably around about April, and they'd be almost certainly starting bulk scale testing in that April-May period.
And then depending on what those results yield, what does the rest of the program look like theoretically?
Well, things are moving along on multiple fronts. And I think it's really important just to pause for a second and say, now, if you look back at what we were doing last year we were still sort of working through the minerals. We were exploring, finding where the high grade zones were. We were drilling into this weathered cap and discover this high grade anatase rich resource up near surface. And so we achieved an awful lot in 2024. Exploration target defined it as the world's largest known titanium discovery. It's a giant. So moving into this year, what we've seen already is we announced last week results of flotation test work on some of the fractions of the ore body that we've discovered. We announced prior to that other beneficiation and leaching results. So these batch tests, if you like, multiple batch tests are running all the time in the background. We're testing, trying different techniques, looking at ways to get the minerals into a concentrate, and then looking at how we get the titanium into solution. So all of that's aimed at one, really only one purpose, is to get the titanium into a final product. And we're almost there. We're on the cusp of this breakthrough. And I think that's what the listeners and our shareholders should, take, be aware of and take comfort in that we are moving at such a rapid pace. It's really sometimes difficult to keep up with everything.
But you're saying there it's all about getting it into product. Do you see Empire Metals as being the entity that will get it into product?
Well, the technology is there. We're not doing anything that is not conventional. We're not doing anything that's sort of, some sort of unique scientific process that we have to invent as we go along. So we're applying conventional industry tests and standards to this particular ore body. It does have at times its own little characteristics that we have to work our way through and understand. So it's not it's not colouring by numbers. It certainly does require some science and effort, but we're getting there. And one of the most exciting things is when we finally come back to the market with let's call it a glass jar full of product for the time being. We can point to this and say, hey, we can make this. That's why we're out there with the drill rigs, getting 80 tons of sample, because we want to make a lot more. And then when we've made a bulk of that product, we're going to start shipping it to potential customers. So there's a real clear path here to get value add, get news flow into, out there that shows that we are actually steadily advancing the science and technology behind this project.
So you say come to market, so I'm going to be cheeky. It's a giant titanium-rich mineral system, a little bit quirky. So are the funds required for exploration equally as large? What is the financial firepower of your company? Because many investors will have participated in last September's oversubscribed placing, and that raised £2.5 million.
Yeah, well, all of this work that we've spoken about to date has been fully funded. In fact, a lot of that was partially funded before the September raise. So the September raise gave us a lot of breathing space. The current air core program had been on the books, the drilling in this first quarter. We've been announcing that in our forward-looking statements for some months, many, many months. So it was already planned, and we were just waiting for the right opportunity to execute this particular program. As we advance the bulk metallurgical test work, we'll have to think about how quickly we're consuming our funds. But at the moment, most of that is also covered. The initial phase of the test work will involve gravity separation, not expensive test work. And it doesn't really matter if you're pushing a ton of sample through at a time or 5 kilos, to be honest. It's from a productivity point of view, it's easier and better to use the bulk samples, to be honest. And you get more more bang for your buck. So I'm pretty certain that we're comfortable at the moment, and I'm looking forward to being able to get a long way down the runway before we start to feel that we need to recapitalize and try and get a bit more into the budget.
2 more quick questions, if I can, please, Sean. Philip Brumit came on board as non-executive director this month, and as I'm speaking to you, this is February 2025. What does he bring to the board table?
Oh, look, we're really pleased that Phil accepted the appointment. We knew of Phil. We've had various of our directors have worked with him off and on in the past. So Phil's background, he's a big mining company focused guy. He's worked with Newmont. He's worked with Freeport. He was also at London Mining with Dr. Neil O'Brien. So, we knew what Phil would, in terms of technical horsepower, could bring to the table. The guy's a force of nature, to be honest. I've only had one board call with him, and he's right on the money. He's really focused on how we can change the way we look at Pitfield and start to focus on not just the technology and the science behind it, but how we can commercialize it. How do we bring this into an operating, producing mine? And so Phil's he's been there, done that, and I think he's going to be a great asset for us in the short term, no, short to near term.
Okay, right on the money, because it is all about the money and shareholder return. So, taking all of this into consideration, what's the size of the prize? Shareholders will want to know when they are going to be rewarded.
Yeah, well, that's as we keep pointing out, the whole focus and energy of the company now is going into defining the sorts of products that we can get out of the ore. So, yeah, the remarkable thing I think is that we're probably only like 4 or 5 months into this test work phase. We only discovered that weathered cap and announced that sort of middle of last year. I only got samples from it sort of last quarter of last year. So, September, October up there drilling. So we've only really been tackling this for about 4 or 5 months. And we already have a flow sheet. We've already got a flow sheet that goes from ore body to final product. We've tested and proven through the test work the efficacy of about half of that flow sheet already, the first 4 or 5 stages. So we're now moving into that final stage, as I said, about products. What sort of products can we expect to make from the ore body? And now, how do you value those? How can the shareholders, the analysts out there who look at us go, okay, now I understand you. If you can make that, I know what that sells for, and oh, you're the biggest thing on the planet. Oh, well, you've got a lot of that. So it really does allow people, I think, to monetize, if you like, or understand how this thing can be commercialized and where we would sit in the titanium industry.
Understood. Sean Bunn, Managing Director of Empire Metals Limited. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.